The stranger slammed on the brakes in the middle of nowhere. We were on a dirt road. No houses, no landmarks. Just trees and empty road. He turned to me, his voice suddenly aggressive. "Get the fuck out of my car, you hysterical little bitch." I got out, my heart pounding. As I started walking, his car just stayed there. Engine running, headlights on, pointing at me, watching me walk away. For 40 minutes, he'd been telling me about prostitutes he refused to pay, about how pimps wouldn't care if one of them disappeared. And now I was alone, in the middle of nowhere, with no cell service, walking away from a man who'd just shown me exactly what kind of person he was. I'm Alvin, and this is Common Ground Horror. This happened in 2020 during COVID lockdown. I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Everyone at my office was working from home, and we were all going stir crazy. My boss invited a few of us to spend a weekend at his countryside property. Fishing, hunting, just getting out of the apartment for a few days. I didn't think twice. I said yes immediately. That same day, I packed a backpack, got on my motorcycle, and left. It wasn't a long trip, about 180 kilometers to a small mountain town with fewer than 15,000 people. The problem started because I decided to take a bike that had been sitting unused for about 3 months. I've never been big on preventative maintenance. I know I should be, but I'm not. About 20 kilometers before arriving, I started feeling the bike lose power. It even shut off once while I was shifting gears. I had no idea what was wrong. I started looking for a repair shop and found one, probably the only one in town. The mechanic looked at it briefly and said he could only work on it the next day. They were closing early because of the pandemic. I tried to leave with the bike anyway. Big mistake. Every time I released the clutch, it just died. I got frustrated and even offered him extra money to look at it right then. He refused. At that point, there was nothing I could do. I tried calling my boss to pick me up. His phone seemed to be off. I called some coworkers, but I was the first one to arrive in town. They hadn't even left home yet and weren't planning to come until the next day. Uber wasn't an option in such a small town. When I asked about taxis, people basically laughed at me. I only had 2 choices: wait for my boss to call back, or start walking. I checked maps. It said it was about a 2-hour walk. So I told the mechanic I'd walk and come back for the bike the next day. When I said I was going to walk, a guy who was at the shop spoke up. "Where you headed?" I showed him the location on my phone. He said he was going that way and could drop me off nearby. He looked normal, maybe around 40 years old, driving a Mitsubishi L200 pickup truck. I accepted. As soon as he got in the car, he pulled a gun from his waistband and placed it under his thigh. I noticed it, but I didn't think much of it. I grew up in the countryside. My old man used to carry like that. It didn't feel strange to me. The guy was very talkative, smooth even. He started asking me a lot of questions right away. Where was I coming from? What did I do for a living? Whose house was I going to? Was someone expecting me, or was I just showing up unannounced? I told him my boss had invited me, but I'd arrived too early. I also complained about how bad the cell signal was in the area, that I had no internet. He agreed, said it was always like that. Then he started talking about how much he loved driving, how he could spend hours on the road just for the pleasure of it, that he was just passing through the area. The conversation felt normal enough. Then, after a while, it shifted to women. I mentioned I was single and doing fine. I said I'd recently gone to a strip club and liked it. When I said that, his eyes lit up. He told me he'd traveled all over the country, that the South had the best prostitutes. Then he said something that immediately set off alarm bells in my head. He said women from the Northeast weren't even worth raping. I thought, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But he kept going. He started describing in detail how prostitutes behaved in different regions of Brazil, how he approached them, what he expected from them. He said if he didn't think the service was good, he just didn't pay. I asked him, "Man, haven't you ever had trouble with a pimp?" He said no, because he never stayed more than one night in the same city. And then he said something that made my blood run cold. Pimps wouldn't care if one of their girls disappeared, so why would they care about one client not paying just once? I found everything he was saying disgusting, but he spoke so casually, so matter-of-factly, like it was the most normal thing in the world. I got so caught up listening, half in disbelief, half in shock, that I lost track of time. When I finally looked at my phone, about 40 minutes had passed. That's when it hit me. Wait, it's less than 20 kilometers. Where the hell is this guy taking me? I tried to check maps, but I had no signal. The location wouldn't load. My stomach dropped. I said, "Hey man, I think we already passed it. You can just drop me off here. I'll figure it out." He looked at me calmly and said, "Why are you so nervous?" "I'm not nervous, I just..." "Relax. Nothing's gonna happen to you." He paused. "I'm not gay, man." I told him he was misunderstanding me, that I was fine. I just thought we got distracted talking and went too far. He said, "Yeah, maybe." Then, in a tone that made my skin crawl, he added, "Doesn't really matter." And he suddenly accelerated. He turned onto a dirt road, then another, taking random curves, with no clear direction. I yelled, "Let me out of here, fuck!" He slammed on the brakes. We were in the middle of nowhere, just dirt road and trees. He turned to me, and his whole demeanor changed. His voice was aggressive, cold. "Get the fuck out of my car, you hysterical little bitch." I got out immediately. I was pissed. My heart was racing. I started walking away, back in the direction I thought we'd come from. That's when I noticed the car wasn't moving. It just stayed there, engine running, headlights on, pointed at me. I kept walking, looking back every few seconds. The car stayed there, watching me. For a full minute, maybe more, he just sat there. Then, finally, he turned around and drove off in the opposite direction. I walked for about 3 hours. The whole time I kept thinking about what could have happened. If I'd been a woman, if I'd been with a woman, what would he have done? Why did he drop me off in the middle of nowhere? Why did he just sit there watching me walk away? Why did he get so angry when I asked to go out? I finally got cell service and managed to reach my boss. He came to pick me up. When I got in his car, I could tell he was shaken by the whole situation. I told him everything about the stranger, the things he said, the way he drove me out to nowhere. My boss didn't say much, but I could see it in his face. He knew how bad it could have been. I spent the rest of the weekend at his place, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. The next day, I went back to the repair shop to get my bike. I asked the mechanic if he knew the guy who'd given me a ride. He said he'd never seen him before. That didn't make me feel better. Because the stranger had been at the shop, waiting, like he knew someone would need help. I keep replaying the conversation in my head, the way he talked about prostitutes like they were disposable, the way he said pimps wouldn't care if one disappeared, the way he looked at me when he said, Nothing's gonna happen to you. I'm not gay. Like he was reassuring me. But also like he was making a distinction. I'm not gay, but if you were a woman. I think about the fact that he asked me if anyone was expecting me. That he asked if I was showing up unannounced. I think about the fact that I told him my boss's phone was off, that I had no cell service, that no one knew exactly where I was. I think about how he drove me further and further from town, talking the whole time, keeping me distracted. And I think about how angry he got when I finally noticed, when I asked to get out. Like I'd ruined something. I learned my lesson. I'll never accept a ride from a stranger again. But I also learned something else. There are people out there who hunt, who drive around looking for the right opportunity, the right victim. Someone alone. Someone with no signal. Someone no one's expecting. And they talk. They're charming. They make you feel comfortable. Right up until the moment you realize you're not going where you thought you were. I was lucky. I'm a man. I'm not his type. But someone else might not be so lucky. And that thought keeps me up at night. Because he's still out there, driving, looking, waiting for the right person to need a ride. If you've lived through a nightmare you can't explain, I want to hear it. Send your stories to commongroundhorror@gmail.com to be featured on the channel. This has been Alvin for Common Ground Horror. Until next time, sleep well, if you can.